Help, Hegel is destroying my relationship, is a summary of a blog post that was posted, or a Reddit post, that Dominic Cummings, the previous advisor to Boris Johnson, tweeted out because he must have found it on Reddit. And as he says, a work of absolute beauty, modern academia, university life, modern philosophy and marriage, lol. TLDR, physicist woman driven mad by her Hegelian philosopher BSing husband seeks help. I say dump him, he'll only get worse, you deserve better. And Dominic's not wrong here, but we're going to go through the text of this because it is just so funny, right? So this was written by a woman, 33-year-old, and her husband's 35-year-old career in academic philosophy is ruining their marriage, right? So she says, my husband and I are both academics. We've been married for 3 years and been together for 6. He's an academic philosopher and I'm a physicist. He has recently expressed displeasure that I've never seriously engaged with his work. Now, I've read a bit of the classics of philosophy, but my husband's work is more what I'm told is called the continental tradition. Unfortunately, everything he's shown me seems to be completely insane. And that's a great summary of continental philosophy. Continental philosophy is, of course, very idealist. You can go back to Rousseau, you can go to pretty much all of it. It's deontological, idealist nonsense. So they will say, look, we don't need to look at reality like those British empiricists who look at reality and then derive theory from it. No. We develop our theories and then apply them to reality, which is why the French Revolution looks so much different to the American Revolution, right? The American Revolution is a completely different beast compared to the French Revolution, and why the French Revolution will never stop. Whereas the American Revolution stopped very quickly. You know, it didn't go into reign of terror or anything. No, what we're going to do is set up our republic. Here are your laws. Here are your constitution. Get on with your lives. That's the difference. But the continental tradition is nonsense, right? Anyway, she says, here's the problem. His work apparently involves claims about physics that are just wrong. And wrong in a very embarrassing way. Yeah, but you have to understand, he has a priori, theoretically, decided what correctness is. And you going, well, reality doesn't agree, are the one who's in the wrong from his perspective. It's amazing. I'll admit, I'm a terrible person, but I had never read his thesis before. I tried reading it, and it's riddled with talk about, for instance, the necessary relationship between matter having extension and possessing mass. You're a physicist, Callum. Does matter have extension?
I have no idea what the hell that even means in this context.
Well, it's hard to figure out because, I mean, like, there's different uses of the term extension. In mathematics, it means something that I don't understand because I'm a mathematician. In philosophy, you get linguistic extension, which is the meaning of things. So, you could say all dogs, and then you have extended it to mean, collies, border collies, Rottweilers, pit bulls. And so everything, there's an extension based on the meaning of it, but that's a linguistic turn of phrase. It's not something I would apply to physics. I mean, I don't know how it's supposed to apply to physics, but does matter possess mass?
Normally, I think. I'm not going to speak like categorically because I'm sure there are people who understand, the exemptions more than me.
Right.
But normally, yes.
But I don't know what the extension.
Yeah, I have no idea what that means.
No. I don't know how it applies, but I mean, she doesn't explain because probably it's nonsense. He also talks about the shape of fundamental particles. Do fundamental particles have a shape?
It's debated. When I was at university, there was the debate about whether or not anything is just waves or is it things.
Well, she says this is obviously nonsensical / wrong. Electrons have mass and are point particles. They don't take up space, really. In the thesis and some of the papers he wrote, he seems to think of himself as scientific and a materialist. Now, I actually know where this is going. He's trapped in the realm of logical positivism. So the point is that there's no such thing as metaphysics. Now, metaphysics are essentially constructs we project out onto the world to explain things. And depending on how committed he is, he might not even believe in causality. Because causality technically is a kind of metaphysical thing. A happens and then B happens and then C happens, and we provide the links between those things in our heads, right? And so it could be that he doesn't believe in metaphysics at all if he's a scientific materialist. And he may well be at the point where he doesn't think that there's even such a thing as relationships or anything in any way, shape, or form. The only things that exist are real hard things. It's nonsense. It's total nonsense. It's fallen out of favour in philosophy as well. But anyway, his entire idea of what these words mean is stuck in like outdated 19th century ideas about atoms as little flying billiard balls flying around in space. Is that not an accurate way of describing atoms, Callum?
No.
I've gently tried to help him and explain how he might start to engage seriously with contemporary physics. He has never read a book on the subject, and he is, by his own admission, bad at math. But he just gets angry at me and explains that Hegel's system is presuppositional and the basis for all possible rational thought, so there is no need to read other texts in the first place. I have no idea what this means, she says. Now, do you have any idea?
He's saying it's presuppositional, so he's decided what the world is going to be like. So the atoms are billiard balls. I've already decided that. Mm-hmm. Therefore, if nature is in disagreement, nature's a class traitor.
Not only that, you have Hegel's dialectical synthesis, which means that essentially he believes that ideas will evolve, right, through synthesis, through thesis, antithesis. And then they'll present whatever's left out of the idea will also be introduced.
You can't synthesize two ideas that are diametrically opposed.
No. Think of where this goes, though, right? This means that eventually, after a long enough period of time, all ideas will essentially congregate into the one divine idea that encapsulates all of the universe and everything that can be thought.
Yeah, it's moronic.
Yes, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
But also, you can't apply that to concepts, the moron.
No.
You've got two models of atoms.
But it's also the root theory of that was taken by the Marxists and the Nazis.
Yep.
Don't know why he's a big fan of German idealism, but for some reason he is. And the thing is, I think I actually do know, right? So I'm convinced that to a certain level of midwit, like the upper end of midwits, Marxism and German idealism, these sort of Hegelian views, are kind of like an unsolved puzzle, right? It's like, yeah, but logically, wouldn't this work? It's like, well, logically, maybe, but it doesn't represent reality. So you're wrong about something. You just don't know what. And so they're sat there, no, I can piece this all together. Watch me piece this together till we get to the final idea of all of the universe. It's like, that's not going to happen. That's never going to happen. You're a moron. But it's like an unsolved Rubik's Cube that they're desperately trying to solve, I think. Anyway, so he gets angry and explains how Hegel's system is presuppositional, and it is the basis for all possible rational thoughts, so there's no need to read the text. He will throw out terms like speculative propositions, but when I ask him to explain what this means, or give me examples, he just starts giving me more inscrutable jargon that makes no sense. On top of that, he will repeatedly say German phrases or terms that he uses and pronounces incorrectly, brackets, I am a native speaker. She's German. She's just like, what are you saying? None of this makes any sense. So he pronounced it incorrectly or nonsensically. He claims to understand the language, brackets, he doesn't, and he tells me that Hegel can only be understood in the original German, as if it's the Quran that can only be understood in the original Arabic.
Which again is another cope.
Oh yeah, it's a massive
cope. You just don't understand. And then if you go do the work to learn Arabic or some phrases and whatnot, they'll still be like, yeah, but, this interpretation, It's hide the sausage or something like that. They're not going to show you what's happening.
Yes, but as I said, what it is a way of saying, well, it's kind of an appeal to authority, essentially. Saying, look, no, there's this fundamental barrier between you and the text that I'm behind for some reason that you can't get behind because you can't read it in the original. But the thing is,
even though she's German, he's not.
She's German, he's not, and he can't read German. He clearly can't read the language. And when I've tried to read the original text, they make even less sense. On top of this.
The German's like, yeah, I read the original German, and it's even more nonsensical than my husband.
Yeah, right. But it gets better, right? Because this is how you can tell the guy is. This is an aspect of faith for him now, right? On top of this, dogma is how it would be described philosophically. On top of this, his obsession with Hegel himself has reached the point of creepiness. Like the 19th century or 18th, I can't remember the year Hegel lived in. The actual philosopher himself, right? At one point, he literally told me that all other work either agrees with Hegel, so it's redundant, or disagrees with Hegel and is wrong. Hegel is God. Hegel has come down with his divine Bible called the Phenomenology of Spirit, and he has explained, and if you don't understand, it's wrong, and if it agrees, then it doesn't matter because it's redundant because Hegel's already covered it. Because of his idea of divine ideas that eventually get to the one idea that encompasses everything. It's nonsense.
Hegel is love. Hegel is life.
Exactly, right? But it gets better. He keeps a framed picture of Hegel on the nightstand in our bedroom. Like it's Jesus.
Personal saint.
Personal savior, Callum. Right? In fact, he even changed his phone's background from a picture of me to the same picture of Hegel. I feel like I'm competing with a 200-year-old philosopher for my husband's attention. Can we just get the next one up, John? Because this is amazing. This is the meme. That's Hegel. That's the picture.
Why would you have that as your phone screen background?
Why would you treat Hegel like he's God?
Even if you did, why would you make him your phone screen background? That's just
literally,
weird.
wife, get out of here. I need Hegel. Anyway, going back to the piece. I feel like I'm competing with a 200-year-old philosopher for my husband's attention. Well, you kind of are. Recently, we got into a huge fight because he was trying to demonstrate an example of the Hegelian concept of the unity of opposites, whatever that means. Again, I haven't actually read Hegel. I've just read about Hegel, and it seems to just be part of the dialectical method. By claiming, I look forward to some leftists going, see, I've got you now, because I haven't bothered. Because why would you bother? This is obvious nonsense, right?
Unity of opposites. Shut up.
Yeah, exactly. Why would I bother? But it just gets so much better, right? By claiming that left and right hands are opposite, but also identical. Your left and right hands, they might be opposite, but they're also identical. They're not identical. Identical means one and the same. The thing in and of itself, right? And if you've got two different hands, they're not identical. Like, it would have to be just the one hand. Anyway, I told him this is just wrong and that right and left hands are not identical in any meaningful sense. They're not even in any sort of really literal sense. Chirality is a basic concept in geometry group theory. Left and right hands are not superimposable. That's correct, because otherwise your thumbs would be, everything's different. He kept putting his hands together and tried to show how they were identical, but kept failing because they're not, and then got angry and stormed out of the house. I haven't seen him since. This is about a day ago. I've texted him and I haven't heard back. Like, I'm just driven mad by Hegel.
It's like a 4chan thread where the guy has all the spaghetti fall out of his pockets or something like.
Absolutely. Like, imagine. No. Look, they're the same. They're identical. It's like, but they're actually not. Which is why you can put your thumbs together.
Like
otherwise, they'd be like that.
Well, you pat them on the head. She's like, look, they're different.
But this is blowing up their marriage because no, you have to accept the gospel of Hegel. And so he storms out. She hasn't heard from him for a couple of days. It's like, don't know what I've done. It was her mistake from being a physicist, I think. So she says, what do I do, Reddit? Do I just let this go? I think it's probably best, because I think he might turn into some sort of Hegelian jihadi.
I think you should let him go.
Well, that was Dominic Cummings' advice, and I think he's right. But if you don't let it go, I think there's every chance that he'll become some kind of Hegelian jihadi. Like, he'll literally lose his mind over this, I think. She says, it's immensely frustrating that my account of my own field is not being taken seriously. Well, he's already got all of the answers to everything ever. Literally, that will ever be a thought he's got the answer to, apparently. He asked me to engage with his work, so I did, but it seems like he won't repay me in kind. He has told me repeatedly that Hegel makes empirical science unnecessary. As a scientist yourself, Callum, you enjoying that thought?
That's a great idea. Just don't ever need to do anything. Just sit around, have your hypothesis.
Sit around thinking.
No, just done. Like the hypothesis section.
That's right. I'm a German idealist.
Yeah. No one's ever tried out an experiment and found out that it's something different.
Nope.
No.
Empirical science is unnecessary implied that my work is a waste of time and that I should just be studying German idealism instead and read people like Fichte and Schelling, who are apparently very popular in Germany, but I've never heard of them. They're not very popular in Germany. They're not very popular in the academy. I don't know. It depends if you're into continental philosophy, I suppose, and then you will have to read them. Why is it okay for him to belittle my field when I can't offer mild criticism of his? TLDR, my husband's academic work is embarrassingly wrong and can't take any criticism. And boom, there we go. Continental philosophy in a nutshell. Embarrassingly wrong, can't take criticism.
Yeah.
But that's
the Amy Baking Company of the academic world.
Yes. Legitimately, I found this to be magical. The first time I read through this, I was just howling. This whole thing is just brilliant. But the reason it can't take any criticism is because it's wrong. And they need it to be right, because otherwise everything about German idealism is bull. Because it is. Says the English philosopher.
If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast, The Lotus Eaters, you can go to prelotuseaters.com and get access to all our premium content.
Things like our book club, where we examine classics like Aldous Huxley's Brave New World and examine the themes that underpin it, and now we're getting worryingly close to that, or modern books like Mark Sidwell's The Long March, which is how exactly we ended up in the current cultural situation we're in and what conservatives can do about it. Or you can check out the other series we have, such as our Contemplation series, where Hugo and Josh decided to, in the latest one, have a look at an examination on the ways that other elections have been rigged. for no reason at all. Or you can check out our Epoch series, which is one of my personal favorites because this is where I get to talk about history. And I love talking about just random things from history. And one of the great things we can do with this series is talk about those things that aren't so often discussed. So, I mean, you can talk about Xerxes' army, the vast army that invaded Greece during the Greco-Persian Wars. Or we can go through things like Herodotus' view on the Scythians. Who are they? You probably don't know, but they used to be quite an important people a long time ago, and they're very, very interesting. We've got some really good reports about them. Or we've got premium podcasts, which is things we generally don't want to put outside of the paywall because we might get in trouble for them, such as the list of things that Alex Jones was right about. Or we do just very interesting discussions because there are things that we do lots of work on. Another one is that I'm particularly proud of is where Christopher Hitchens, the famous new atheist, would have fallen during the modern culture wars, because he probably wouldn't have been very woke. But we also have lots of interviews and articles and other things on the website that you can sign up to enjoy, and we're really proud of them.
So if any of that sounds good to you, go over to lotuses.com and sign up for as little as £5 a month to support us, keep the show going, and also to get access to all the content. Thank you and goodbye.